Hello, welcome to the session on grammar pitfalls to look out for. We won't be going into theoretical aspects of grammar, don't worry. We'll be talking about some of the major problems, some of the common areas that we have been able to identify with the help of the doubts and questions raised by our students. So we talk about grammar first. There is a brief intro. We have divided it into 5 sessions actually. We have identified 5 areas and each session will deal with, very briefly, will deal with these areas, these 5 areas. So we talk about grammar first. What exactly is English grammar? Many learners, especially Malayalam learners, have a sort of a phobia, a fear, okay, an unexplained fear about grammar. So what exactly is grammar? Grammar is nothing to be worried about actually. It's just a scaffold, it's just a tool, it's just a handbook for better use of language. Now you don't need grammar to communicate. Well, we don't even need language to communicate. But then if we are using language, if we use it according to the rules of grammar, you become a better communicator, that is all. Things are more effective, things are more effectively conveyed, things are better communicated to the receiver. So that makes a lot of difference in your communication process as such, because nowadays nobody is looking for appropriate or accurate, not appropriate but accurate communicators. People are not looking at fluency, people are looking at how effectively you can convey things, how effectively you can communicate. So that is where grammar becomes important. But then yes, people have a problem with grammar. We never really know, we never really understand why that is. Whatever be the problem, we look at grammar. Now when you look at grammar in a historical manner, since when did grammar become so important? Probably because of the education system. It gave a lot of importance to rules, but then that was only so that the learners become more proficient, they become better users of the language. So earlier actually they did not believe that each language was unique, each language was individual, each language was independent. They thought all languages were the same. So the grammar of more prominent languages would be sort of applied on the lesser prominent languages. So in that sense, there was a time when Latin was the superstar language, yes, really, and then French was the next superstar, and then came English as the superstar of languages. Can you believe it that English was once upon a time looked upon as the vernacular, okay, the base form of language which the common man use, and Latin was the superstar and French was the aristocratic language, okay. So what happened was the superstar language, Latin, its grammar got imposed on the vernacular, the poor relation, English. So that is probably why when you are going through a grammar book, when you are going through the grammar rules, we find more exceptions than general norms. There is a norm and then immediately there will be a footnote that says but, exception, okay. So probably English, poor English, the less prominent language at that time, was sort of given the strict, rigid grammar system of Latin. But whatever that be, we have to learn the grammar of English. Learn in the sense, if you are aware of the grammar, if you are aware of how to go about it. It's just like we are buying a mobile phone and we have a handbook with it. Of course, we can use the mobile phone without ever referring to handbook, but once it gets hung, we probably will refer to the handbook to see what went wrong, and then we will correct it and then go on using it in a better manner. It's exactly like that with grammar and languages, especially in English, okay. We know language, we know English, we have been learning it, we are familiar with it for such a long time. Many a time that we have directions spelt out in English, we have notices, we have office boards all written in English, so we are not strangers to English at all. But somewhere or the other, the moment you hear grammar, you're done, okay. So there is no need for this grammar phobia. It's only for improving your efficiency as a speaker of English, that is all. And some of the common problems that we come across, especially among Malayali users or Malayali speakers or Malayali learners of English. One is that there is a lack of clarity. They don't really understand why this particular thing is there or why we have to do things in a particular manner. So there is a lack of clarity which results in a lack of confidence. So they're not really sure whether I can use this, whether this is right or wrong, and that makes them a sort of hesitant in using the language. So lack of clarity about the grammar, about the language leads to a lack of confidence, and very often they earn to improve their language, and so they rely on all sorts of unauthentic materials, which would only add to the muddle that is already there. Okay, so if at all you want to improve language, you should rely on authentic materials. Like we have materials from British Council or ESL. All these sites are there where we have first hand or users of first language who give examples on English. That would be better for you if you want to improve your language, English. So all this confusion and lack of confidence and unauthentic materials, like for example learning English through, I think there was a very recent instance of a study on learning language through the use of Kung Fu or Karate. So, or learning English through Hindi, so where they give the literal translation of English into Hindi. That is not going to really help a learner master the language. You can be familiar with that language, that is all. Okay, so there are errors in construction, errors in vocabulary that result from all these reasons. Basically, it's all because of a lack of clarity. So the common errors that we have identified, the most problematic errors that we have identified, and with which we will be dealing with in the following sessions, 5 sessions, one is question formations. You know, people have trouble in forming questions because there is a shuffling of words when we have to form the questions, which is not really there in Indian languages. So we are inflectional languages. Okay, so we can easily form questions without changing the word order by just changing the form of the word. And then there are verbs, which are slightly confusing, the tense forms especially, and the prepositions, where to use what, when and which and all that, which preposition to use where. And there are certain Indian expressions which is very unique to Indian context that might also add to the confusion. We think it is correct, but the others might not think that it is correct. So that is also there, and especially the beast. Okay, the scariest of them all is of course tense in English. That is the one we can use kids to threaten with. Okay, to comply to our request, we will teach you tense, and that's it. So Indian English, we should probably look at Indian English first to understand the problems of Indian English speakers. So it's actually a variety of English that is prevalent in the Indian subcontinent, just very like a variety of English like British English or American English or Australian English, but not really like them. It's more like Caribbean English or African English or European English because it's a second language variety. And it's bound to be heavily influenced by mother tongue, unlike British or American or Australian English. So India, and it's not even like Caribbean or African English, because India, with its multitude of languages, with its plethora of languages, with its such variety or rainbow of languages, it's bound to have a multitude of Indian varieties also. Each mother tongue will influence those speakers in their own manner, and we have a different variety of English. Like for example, Mallu English or Malayali English is vastly different from Tamil English or Kannadiga's English or Hindi English or Bengali English, for example. Okay, because all these languages influence the pronunciation of words, the vocabulary formation, the sentence structure, the grammar, everything. So basically it affects the 4 areas: pronunciation, vocabulary, sentence construction, and of course grammar. So I've given 2 examples there wherein you say herbal tea. Some people will say it as herbal tea, the H is silent, and the others will say that H. Okay, honorable. Okay, so that's one variety of Indian English. And again, the sound Z, okay, in zero, it might come out as zero or it might come out as zero, depending on the geographical position and the mother tongue influence. I've also given some words that are used in the Indian context. For example, candy. The Americans and British people will call it as candy, but we call it as chocolate. We don't really distinguish candy with chocolate. Candy is chocolate and chocolate is candy for us. So shrimp and prawn, for example, okay, they call it as shrimp, we call it as prawn. So these kinds of differences in vocabulary, in pronunciation, in words, in sentence structure is all there. So looking at sentence construction, we thought we will focus on question formation first, because that's a huge problematic area for the speakers of English in the Indian subcontinent, because we don't really have to shuffle the word order or bring in additional words to form questions. Especially with the word order, we don't really have to change word order because our languages are more or less inflectional. So in looking at questions, like for example, what for you bought this? It will be very common to find people ask you, I bought a new sari. Oh, what for you bought this? Instead of saying, why did you buy this? Okay, so it's a kind of a translation, a transposing of the mother tongue into English. And if somebody asks you, oh, you did not come yesterday, and then the answer should be actually no, I did not come, but many people will say that yes, I did not come. Okay, so yes is the questioner is actually baffled. Is that a yes or is that a no? Yes, I did not come. That's again Indian English, ade njan vannilla. So that kind of a translation, transposition, I would say transposition is happening when you listen to that kind of a conversation. Or the ubiquitous na as a tag question, that's again Indian English. In Hindi, hena; in Malayalam, alle, ille, alliya, illiya, okay, that sort of a stuff from Indian languages. So he will buy it na, instead of saying he will buy it, won't he? Okay, so when you use na, one advantage is that you don't have to bother with whether the sentence is positive or negative. It goes with all sorts of sentences. Okay, he will come na, he won't come na. So there is no looking for positive or negative sentences, unlike the real question tags if you have to use them. So question formation is when you are in English, especially in question formation, word order is important. So in English, especially when we are trying to form questions, the word order is really important. Okay, like for example, there is a statement, there is a universally favorite statement, Rama killed Ravana. So that's a statement and you have to get question. Okay, so how can you form the question? You can easily change the tone. Rama killed Ravana. So the typical Indian way would be Rama killed Ravana. Oh, is that so? Okay, but instead of that, there are other ways of forming questions. Like you can bring in auxiliaries. Did Rama kill Ravana? Or you can bring in were words. Okay, WH words or question words. Who killed Ravana? Rama killed Ravana. Whom did Rama kill? Okay, Ravana was killed by Rama, or Rama killed Ravana. And you can also use tag questions. Rama killed Ravana, didn't he? So these many varieties of ways of forming questions are there, which fortunately or unfortunately we don't really use, we don't really bother with. And then again, let's look at another statement called a sentence like I came yesterday. Okay, so to get that answer, there are different ways of forming questions, like when did you come? You're asking for a specific time. Or did you come yesterday? You're asking for a confirmation. And you came yesterday, didn't you? Okay, when Indian speakers will probably say, you came yesterday. You came yesterday. The change in tone has done it all. So that's one way of forming questions, wherein you bring in auxiliary words like did he come, did he kill, okay, whom did Rama kill. So we split up the tense, the verb, and bring in auxiliary verbs and try to form questions. Or we bring in were words, okay, and we try to form questions. And then we have to change the order also slightly. Okay, Rama killed Ravana would be who did Rama kill. So the word order is also slightly changed. And maybe if we talk about functional English, that would be helpful for you here, because functional English is a type of English. I'm not saying it's a variety of English, it's not a form of English, but it's more like a syllabus. Okay, it was formulated by Michael Halliday in the 1960s. So it's about we look at language in a primarily as functions and expressions. Okay, so what is language primarily for? Language is primarily for communicating something. So that something becomes the purpose, and the expressions with which we express these functions become obviously the expressions that we are using in language. For example, apologizing. So we want to express the purpose of apologizing. We want to apologize to somebody. You don't just say I apologize. You can say I apologize, but there are other ways of saying like I'm sorry, forgive me, pardon me. So those are different expressions for one particular function. Okay, the function is apologizing. So there are different expressions for expressing this function. Now let's look at another function called interrupting. So very politely you can say excuse me. That is the expression for interrupting something or someone. And if you want to greet, okay, there's so many forms of greeting, like you can say hello, hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, all that stuff is there. Okay, and you want to ask for direction, or you want to invite someone, you want to agree with someone, you want to disagree with someone, all these will become purposes for which we are using language. And then we look at the expressions with which we can fulfill these purposes. Okay, we can meet these purposes. When we look at language in that way, a lot of stress on grammar and other things go away. Okay, because we are only bothered about how to express this purpose, and there are set expressions for fulfilling or expressing these purposes, so we go for that. And we are not really bothered, we're not really concerned about whether we got that right or wrong. We are only bothered about whether the meaning is clear, the purpose is fulfilled or not. So functional English is helpful to language learners in that way. And certain expressions in Indian English especially that can be avoided, in the sense that will help you make a better user of language. So one is of course the use of na, the ubiquitous na as a question tag for both positive and negative sentences. You can avoid that and you can use a proper question tag that makes it more impressive, so to say. And then there is a repetition for emphasis, like long hair and different books. Oh, the library is full of different books. You can simply say there is a variety of books, there are many different books. That is where we have to bring in intensifiers, okay? But unfortunately we are not really into intensifiers and we tend to repeat things. But that's that's very natural for Indian languages. But English, coming from a different family background, English belongs to a different family altogether and its cultural context is different. So English uses intensifiers instead of repeating the same word, long hair or small things. Or don't bicker about small things, okay? Don't bicker about small things is enough, okay? Such small things or such silly things is enough. And then there is a main problem with English speakers which is called as redundancy, okay? That is like you repeat things unnecessarily. The most popular one or the numero uno among these is of course discuss. People always say that discuss about. Oh, I discussed about it. Discuss means speak about. So we don't really need another about there, okay? So discuss means speak about. So if you add one more about, there are two abouts there. You are speaking about something, okay? So that is why we say that discuss does not need an additional about there, because when you are substituting, when you are trying to use synonyms instead of discuss, we say speak about. So discuss about, no. Discuss with someone, yes, you can discuss something with someone, but you don't discuss about things. You discuss the schedule, or you discuss the timetable, you discuss the examinations, that's it. The same way comprise. Comprise is almost always followed by of, which is not really necessary because comprise means consist of. So when you are saying comprise of, you are actually saying consist of, meaning there are two ofs which we don't really need, okay? So that is why it is known as redundancy, unnecessary repetition of prepositions or phrases. The same way ascend up. Ascend means going up, so why do we need another up there? And descend down, okay? And return back. Return means come back, so we don't have to say return back, okay? So these are some of the pitfalls or areas that would be good if you keep an eye on. And I put the last slide using several expressions for thanking a person and also to responding. When a person thanks you, how to respond. That's also functional English, okay? That's part of. Thanking is acknowledging someone's effort, appreciating someone's effort is actually a purpose, and how do you express that? And responding to a thank you, that is another purpose. So I've put in different expressions for that two particular functions actually. Thank you, thanking someone, saying thank you, and responding to thank you, okay? So thanks a bunch, thanks a million, thank you so much, and informally you say ta, and then the response is not at all, that's all right, don't mention it, it's such a small thing, don't even mention it, and my pleasure, okay? So I look forward to more sessions. I hope you will enjoy them. It's such a pleasure for us. So ta.